Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back to another episode of I Got You Sis Chronicles. Hopefully you've missed me. I had to take a break last week in preparing for this episode, as well as the official launch of my Soul Baby food line, my organic soul food for babies. So you can get that at soulbabyfoodorganics.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. But super excited about that. But this episode is about rape culture, and it's about rape culture specifically in the African American community. This topic affects me personally, and it also affects a lot more people than many of us would like to realize. I was inspired to do this episode when I heard the story about Oluwatoyin Salau. She was an activist for Black Lives Matter. She was so vocal. And I remember watching one of her videos like a month or so ago of her speaking about us. And to later see that she had lost her life as a result of that same courage that she showed in the video when she was speaking to empower Black people was saddening, it was alarming, and it was painful to see.
Can't nobody silence me. I just want, it's not that all lives don't matter, but right now, our lives matter. Black lives matter.
Yes.
Black trans lives matter.
Yes.
Trans lives matter.
Yes.
Because guess what? We all minorities, but right now, like, let's focus on the person who got killed. Tony McDade was a Black trans man. Okay?
Amen.
We're not doing this. We doing this for him. We doing this for our brothers and our sisters who got shot, but we doing this for every Black person. Because at the end of the day, I cannot take my fucking skin color off. The same energy that we had when we were walking the fucking streets, keep that with you at all fucking times. Don't let nobody take away your Blackness from you.
Today is difficult for me because I am going to be vulnerable in telling my own story. And I got this courage from Toyin's story. I hate that she's not here to be able to feel the freeness of, number one, being able to tell your story and not have it hold you in captivity. And then the other thing, to see her attacker be imprisoned and be punished for the wrongs that he committed. The first time that I was raped, I was 12. And the second time I was 18. I remember after it happened when I was 18, thinking that I hadn't grown. As if being raped can be changed by gaining wisdom or age and maturity. It's not the case. The two times that it happened to me are very similar in nature, but also very, very different. I will talk about my story, and I'll also outline the places where I was not supported by the man in my life at the time, and how I was supported by the man in my life at that time. It's important to understand that 1 in 5 women in America has been sexually assaulted. Every 73 seconds, someone in America is sexually assaulted. So it's very likely that if you've never been sexually assaulted and you do not understand rape culture and you do not understand the line of consent, that you should understand it and you should educate yourself and work to get that knowledge, because you're very likely to come into contact with someone who does. Triggers are very real. And you may unknowingly trigger something for someone. And whether they have healed and moved past it, the thing about being a victim of trauma, you're never 100% healed. There's always something that can take you back, and you never know what it'll be. And when you do get taken to that place, it's important to have the love and the support of those around you. It's important not to sink back into the depression that is very real from victims of trauma. 18% of African American women will be assaulted versus the 20% of total women. 91% of those assaults are committed by Black men. 91%. And 75% of those cases are by Black men that they knew, that they trusted. Family members, neighbors, religious leaders, teachers. How do you think that feels? How do you think that feels as a Black woman to, being taken advantage of as a Black woman by the very person that you're holding down, the very person that you are trusting to protect you, to have your back just like you have theirs? That's not a good place to be in. I think that a lot of our rape culture comes from Black women's need to support and pacify Black men because they feel their pain and they feel the things that they go through with society and with the way that society treats them. And we know that we're strong. We know that we take on a lot and we take it on gracefully. So we feel the need to protect them so that they don't have to take on any more than what they've already taken on. We make excuses for them, the traumas that they've experienced and things of that nature. Hurt people. That's true, but that does not justify anything. It doesn't justify the actions. Sometimes it's just someone who doesn't take accountability for their own actions. It's someone who is greedy, someone who is unaware of themselves and unaware of the pain that they are inflicting on other people, or just do not care. And that's pretty much what it is. The first time that I was raped, I was 12 and he was 14. I lied and said I was 13. First and last time I've ever lied about my age. He was somebody I was kind of talking to. I liked him. And it was kind of crazy because I tried to be mature. I wanted him to see me as, mature, and I didn't think that he was looking at me to have sex with me, though. I wasn't in that mental space. I was so young, and I was a tomboy too. So I hadn't even had my first kiss until him. So I was not ready. I had been drinking quite a bit, and I remember I was very intentional. He came over and we were watching a movie. I'll never watch this movie again. How high? Haven't watched it since then. I set up the room. I was on one side of the room and I put his chair all the way on the other side of the room. I created a distance between us. So I was knowledgeable enough to do that. But I think I got up to either go to the bathroom or get some water. And when I came back, he grabbed me and he pulled me to him. I remember when he started to try to do things, I said no. You know, I tried to push him off and stuff like that. And he kept going. I remember he thought he had penetrated and he didn't. And so I pretended like he did, hoping that he could do whatever and then be done. But he realized that he had not, so he corrected himself. And that's when it started. So then I began to yell and scream, and he covered my mouth. And when he was done, he got up, he got me up, kissed me on my forehead, and told me that he would call me. I felt so dirty. I remember that shower. I remember scrubbing so hard. I remember feeling so low. And I shared it with my closest friend at the time. And she shared it with her mother. And her mother did not share it with my mother. No, she allowed it to be the weekly gossip. And I guess it just wasn't juicy enough for her. So she changed the story into a narrative of me being at a party and not knowing who I had had sex with and just all types of craziness. So when my mom found out through the grapevine, she approached me about it, and that is when I told her the truth of what had actually happened to me. And her and my father were enraged. And they immediately took me there to get to the bottom of things and to address it. And they immediately took me to report the incident after they approached his parents about it, you see, because I was highly intoxicated, but he had not had a sip of liquor. So he was completely coherent and clear-minded. So he knew exactly what he was doing. When we got to the station to report it, I began to tell my story. And in the midst of me telling my story, I looked up in my father, who is my favorite person on this earth. And I just felt like I was taking the life out of him. Immediately, I began to recant my story. I didn't want to be a rape victim. I made the decision in that moment that I didn't want my parents to blame themselves for something that wasn't their fault. And I didn't think about anything as far as how I would feel and how I would be affected by it. I was 12. I didn't realize that energy manifested and that I would have to deal with depression and bullying and things like that. I mean, the kids in the neighborhood weren't allowed to play with me because their parents didn't want them around me as an influence, I guess. I don't know, hoeing is contagious or something. But I was okay with that. I could take that burden on my shoulders. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I didn't want them to look at me as a victim. That wasn't what I wanted my story to be. I was feeling a pain that wasn't tangible. And I was seeing differently. And I moved forward. But the first time that I was seen as like a real person, like as the person that I was when I met my first love in high school, well, right before high school. He gave me the opportunity to be myself. I didn't have to pretend to know anything. I didn't have to pretend anything. And so, you know, we fell in love and all that other stuff, but that was a beautiful type of love because it was a healing for me, and it was exactly what I needed, because I felt so isolated. I felt so isolated because no one knew who I really was. And that was my fault. But that's just me. I shut down. I'm not good with being vulnerable. I'm not good with talking about my feelings because I feel like it gives people power. And the crazy things that people have done with their power in my lifetime, I don't like to give it to them. I like to hold on to it myself. The second time it happened to me, I was 18 and I was with my play cousin. And we were at her boyfriend's house and he had a friend over there and we were drinking. It was apple something. I'm sure it was like Smirnoff or something because it was an apple flavor. And I remember not having a lot. Like I had like 2 or 3 shots. We were playing a game and I immediately got sick. And it was the first time and the only time I've ever felt like I may have been like drugged, like my liquor had been compromised. You know, I've been under the influence and stuff like that, and I've never felt like that. That was different to me. And I didn't remember a lot. But I got sick. I went to the bathroom, was throwing up and stuff, and when I got up, I remember my cousin, she went to the room to go to sleep, and I was supposed to be sleeping on the couch. And I laid down on the couch, they gave me a blanket, and I went to sleep. And I remember not opening my eyes, but just feeling like I could smell them. It was her boyfriend and his friend. And I could smell them. I don't remember a whole lot. But that next morning, any questions that I may have had, I examined myself. And I noticed that my underwear and my shorts were not all the way up. My nipples were raw. My nipples were raw. They had dry blood on them and they were cracked. Like you could see that they were stretched out. And I remember I called my the guy I was talking to at the time. I called him and he had a game. So I would always call and, just, have a good day or, have a good game, whatever, just on some regular conversation. So he was talking and then I began to talk to him about what I felt had happened to me. And again, I didn't quite remember everything, but I just knew from examining myself, that something had happened to me. And I remembered smelling them really close to me. And he said to me, well, you shouldn't have been drinking with all of those people. You knew better than that. I said, well, I was with my cousin, we was at a house. I thought it was a safe space. That's her boyfriend. They've been together for some years and he comes to the family house and, I thought I was in a safe place. And he said, look, if you call me for sympathy, then you call the wrong person. You did that to yourself. So I told him to have a good game. And I felt super low, y'all. Like, I was like, dang, if the dude I'm messing with don't believe me, ain't nobody gonna believe me. That's kind of how I felt, honestly. And I remember riding back in the car with my cousin. I didn't want to tell her because, like I said, she loved this man and I didn't know if she was gonna believe me. And we riding back to her mom's house and I look up and there's this big old billboard of his dad, her boyfriend's dad, who was running for office for something. And I felt even smaller. I really didn't share that story. I think one thing that scares me is the fact that I don't know the friend. So I don't know if I saw him out, I wouldn't know. and then to asshole, that's what we'll call him. I saw him a couple years ago and I didn't even recognize him. I think that I just put it out of my head. And as soon as he told me his name, it was like I saw a ghost and I felt so much rage. He could have done better by me. I think that if he would have responded in a supportive manner, if he would have responded in a way that empowered me, that I would have felt bigger in that moment. And I would have had some type of hope. In that time frame, he discouraged me. The first time it happened to me, I had my father who was supportive of me, who wanted me to be okay, who wanted me to have a voice. And I decided not to have a voice. And then in this instance, I was looking for that. And I was told, whatever you looking for from me, you ain't gonna get it. Our Black men, you have to believe us. Yes, there's women out there, and so those women out there who make up traumas and make up these different situations just to get attention and everything else, stop it. Because you're hurting the very people who have truly dealt with these traumas. After that, I wouldn't even go out in Atlanta. I would only go out when I went home, because I knew that being around my sister and my best friend, I knew that they had my back. It's so important for me to make sure that I'm around people that I trust. Black women are sexualized in a way that is beyond me. Women of color as a whole, but Black women are sexualized in a manner that makes them into these fantasies, that makes them into these laborers of sex, slaves. Yes, a lot of Black women are curvy and voluptuous, and it's beautiful. But that doesn't mean that it's yours for the taking, unless I give it to you. Consent is when I say yes, but the second I say no, consent is gone. It's done. And you have to accept that. You have to be able to hear me. You have to be able to hear me tell you that I am no longer comfortable. And if I am under the influence, I can't consent at all. I am my own being. And I stand proudly in all of it. If I decide that I want to give myself to you, be honored. Don't feel entitled to it. Don't feel like it's something I had to do. No, it's a decision that I made as a woman to share myself with you. I don't understand. She was laughing, she was smiling. She was trying to make you feel comfortable, because that's what we as Black women do. When I still told him to have a good game, but I didn't say some colorful metaphors to him, I was making him feel comfortable. I was making him feel okay with what he had just said to me. And even when I saw him a couple years ago and he asked for my social media, I gave it to him. And then I blocked him when I left. But I played nice in his face because I did not want to make him feel uncomfortable. Black men, respect is earned. Loyalty is earned. You got to do for us Black women as you want us to do for you. You know how many Black women are in prison right now because they were trying to hold down their man, but their man is out free walking or got a lesser sentence because he didn't have that same loyalty? Black women, we are strong. We are very strong. But that doesn't mean that we have to take on the weight of the world. That doesn't mean that we have to be these very things these refuges if we can't even have our own? Don't be anything for anybody that they wouldn't be for you. We got to save ourselves until Black men decide to step up and truly and utterly educate themselves on our needs, educate themselves on our disadvantages, educate themselves on our vulnerabilities, and then not use them to their advantage, but use them to empower us, use them to protect us, use them to elevate us. Rape culture in the Black community is something we don't speak about. We don't speak about the molestations that happen, the times when our family members or close friends or babysitters or people that we trust come into our homes and take advantage of us as very young children. There is a great majority of women who are incarcerated that were victims of sexual exploitation, sexual assault, molestation, and things of that nature by the age of 13. Everybody acts out differently. This is not to say that I don't still have that I don't have any loyalty to Black men. This saying, I hate dudes, I hate Black men ain't ish. That's not what I'm saying. That's nowhere near what I'm saying. What I am saying is that every individual must prove themselves to me before I calculate my allegiance to them, before I show my support for them. That's all I'm saying. We as Black women cannot continue to blindly support people that do not support us. We as a people do not need to blindly support people that don't support us. But in this moment in time, I'm talking about Black women and Black men. I'm talking about a movement that needs to happen amongst Black men to understand rape culture, to understand the lines of consent, to understand that you do not own me, to understand that I am my own person, I am my own woman, and my job is not to do this thing by myself just because we've shown you that we can. My job is not to raise the children by myself because I didn't lay down and make them by myself. My job is not to feel alone when I should be surrounded by the love and the strength and the support of Black men. You want the throne, but you don't want to follow the guidelines of being the leader. You got to take it with the good and the bad. You can't just take all the good and ignore the bad. Stand up and show us that you earn. Show us that you deserve our support. Because we as Black women, we got a whole lot of love to give. A whole lot of support. A whole lot of knowledge, a whole lot of ideas, a whole lot of stuff to give, okay? We are the prize, but you got to show us that you're gonna appreciate, the win, that you're gonna appreciate the upgrade, that you're gonna appreciate the elevation that comes with us. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate y'all letting me just talk about this very thing that is rape culture in the Black community. I challenge you, Black men. I challenge you, Black women, that the communication, the talks have to happen. The vulnerability has to be there. And stop victim shaming. Show and prove, boo-boo. Show and prove. That's all I'm saying. Thank y'all so much, and I'll see you soon.